Hello, viewers. Steve here, doing part 3 of Anti-Film School's 4-part series, Summer Movie Wrap-Up. I'm going to be talking a little bit about July in this episode. July was probably the biggest month of the summer. Not a whole bunch of releases like June, but still some major Hollywood movies coming out, like some huge money makers. So, I'm going to start off by talking about two of the smaller ones that came out, which is The Watch, Ben Stiller's sci-fi comedy, and the Oliver Stone movie Savages, with Taylor Kitsch, Blake Lively, and Aaron Johnson. So we're going to start out with Savages real quick. Not really too much to say about the movie. Directed by Oliver Stone, who is responsible for movies like JFK, Natural Born Killers, Malcolm X, W, World Trade Center. I was really looking forward to Savages because I kind of felt like it would be sort of a return to form for Oliver Stone. I kind of thought he's been slipping here in the past few years. I really wasn't a big fan of World Trade Center, and W was okay. I didn't think it was his greatest. And yeah, Wall Street, Money Never Sleeps. Yeah, so it was really great to have him back. And it seemed like he was going more of a Natural Born Killers route with Savages. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. It just wasn't very good. It had some really off-the-wall dialogue. The performances from Selma Hayek and Benicio del Toro were really great. They pretty much carried the movie. Even John Travolta did a good job in it, but the three main characters were just really flat for me. Especially Aaron Johnson, which I was really surprised about, because he was really great and kick-ass. Blake Lively, I wasn't really too surprised that she wasn't very good in it, because I really don't care for her anyway. She's just never really done much of anything that's really made an impression on me. And then Taylor Kitsch does an okay job too, but they just can't run with the big dogs in this one. It's really overly violent, not very intense. Kind of wants to be Natural Born Killers, but it isn't. And just pretty much forgettable. And it has a really lousy ending too, an ending that I didn't really expect Oliver Stone to use. I never would have expected him to do something like this, but he does. I don't really want to give it away, but don't waste your time. Savages, very average, below average. Nothing you really need to rush right out and see. The other smaller movie was at the end of the month. It was The Watch. Again, another huge disappointment in a summer loaded with disappointments. Has three insanely talented comedians plus a newcomer, and it really just doesn't do much of anything for you. It's a typical science fiction actioner that tries to be raunchy, but it isn't, but it is. It's got really cheap jokes. Jonah Hill is the only one who really seems to be trying. Everybody else just seemed like they didn't even care. But he's probably by far the best in the movie. The rest of it just descends into a shoot-'em-up action picture at the end. Really, it's a comedy that if you are a Vince Vaughn, Jonah Hill, or Ben Stiller completist, then it's worth your time. But if you're not, I'd say skip it. There was a reason it didn't really last too long in theaters, because there's just nothing that's really interesting about it. Pretty lousy movie overall, I'd say. So, yeah. So now the two big releases, and have a lot to discuss about those. The first one, July kicked off with The Amazing Spider-Man. Mark Webb, the director of 500 Days of Summer, rebooting a franchise that, frankly, didn't need to be rebooted. At least not yet. I think we could have been okay with a few more years of no Spider-Man. Especially since they have the Avengers going. I really don't think Marvel needed to bring him back so soon. But they've insisted on it, and so we have the Amazing Spider-Man. Doesn't really tell you that much doesn't really tell that new of a story. It rehashes everything we've seen before, maybe slightly different in places. It has a new villain who I wasn't really a big fan of. I mean, he was okay, but I don't really think he's one of the best Spider-Man villains, in my honest opinion. The casting is really great. This movie has really great casting. Don't get me wrong. But I just couldn't get over the fact that it's only been 5 years, and they already wanted to bring it back and restart everything. I didn't think the Raimi movies were that bad. I love the first two. Could do without the third. And I just didn't think that we needed a Spider-Man movie this soon. It was a little dry in places, partly because it all was still pretty fresh in my mind. I think if they would have waited another 2 years or something like that, maybe it would have been a little bit easier to take. But I didn't hate this movie. I've heard people say that it's better than the Avengers. I completely have to disagree 100%. This movie is not better than the Avengers. The Avengers was so entertaining, and this really isn't. I mean, maybe if you're a huge Spider-Man fan, you're gonna love it. For me, I liked it. I didn't love it. It was a tough sell to begin with, even last summer when we started seeing the trailers for it. And it never 100% sold me. I was more interested in what they were going to do with the Avengers and what Warner Brothers DC was going to do with Batman. And this movie tries to be a grittier interpretation of Spider-Man, a little bit darker, but it has these really fantastic elements to it that I think it just, a lot of things were at odds in the movie. And it kind of built up to sort of a bumpy big picture. There's a lot of things to like, a few things to dislike. I hated the evil plot in it. I really couldn't get behind that. But overall, it was a big summer movie. It still has some fun. There's still a pretty cool showdown at the end. But it was just too early. I understand that people loved like the web shooters and stuff like that. It was still too early to revamp this guy. I think he should have been left a few years. So, the other big movie was The Dark Knight Rises. I know a lot of people already know how I felt about The Dark Knight Rises. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. I think it's the best Batman movie yet. I don't think it'll be topped. I'm hoping Warner Brothers doesn't decide to reboot it in 5 years. I would hope they let this stand on its own for a while. I think it wrapped up the trilogy in the best possible way. We've thrown a few spoilers here because, now a lot of people have seen the movie. I liked Robin. I thought Robin was really, really well done. If you were going to bring Robin into it, it was the best way to do it. I really liked Talia, too. Ever since Ra's al Ghul was in the first one, I figured that Talia would be in there at some point. And just by photos that leaked out of Marion Cotillard last summer, I kind of figured um, that she was playing Talia just by her wardrobe that she had on. It just did not seem like this is something that some businesswoman would be wearing. This ninja garb. It really, I wasn't buying it. I thought Bane was fantastic. Um, I thought that Catwoman was probably by far the best character in the movie. She was straight out of the comic books. I loved her. I thought she was perfect. I thought Anne Hathaway did a great job. Tom Hardy did a great job. I thought you could understand Bane perfectly. Um, I thought that even at 2 hours and 45 minutes, this movie moved. There was a lot happening. You were never bored. And I think the middle section of this movie, when Bane takes Gotham, was spectacular. It was intense. It was dramatic. It was thrilling. You wanted Batman to come back and reclaim Gotham. I liked that he did not die at the end because I feel that that would have made this movie so dark, especially killing off a hero like that. I think that would have been really, really bold to do. So I was kind of glad that they didn't, because I wanted to see Batman still alive at the end. I do think there were flaws. I do. I think there were flaws in the story, but I think these flaws stem from the fact that the movie was cut down. The rumor has it that there was about a half hour of footage cut from the movie, one of them being Bane's backstory. At least a little more on him, because it really only it told you Talia's. It didn't really tell you Bane's too much. But I kind of like a little bit of mystery to Bane, because I just think he's more menacing that way. I like that you don't know exactly what they did to him in that prison, but he's got all these scars all over him. It added a sense of mystery. Now, a lot of people try to compare this to The Dark Knight. It's a different movie entirely. It's not a thriller. It's more of an action movie. The first one's more of a character drama. Batman Begins. It was building a character up to make you care for him. This was a disaster epic. This was action at full throttle. And it was the best movie of the summer, without question. I think it blew the Avengers away just with its story, with what it was saying underneath the story. I've seen the movie now 4 times, and each time it actually gets a little bit better. I like it more, and that's not just because I've read the comic books. I just think that this movie is so well done. It captures the spirit of the times perfectly. So when we look back at all 3 of them, they're going to be a complete vision and a snapshot of the time. And I think that's what any great movie should do. And all 3 of them have done that perfectly. And yeah, I think that was the best movie of the summer, if you want my honest opinion. It rocked. I think a lot of the complaints people have about it are sort of, you're nitpicking it. You should leave it alone. It's not a 100% perfect movie, but it is really, really great. So, but yeah, that's July for you. Amazing Spider-Man, pretty good. The Dark Knight Rises is great. Savages sucks. So does The Watch. So, overall grade, we're going to give it about a B- because The Dark Knight Rises was incredible, and Spider-Man did some heavy lifting too to make things memorable. So, yeah, stay tuned for part 4, where we discuss August, which will be here in the next few days. So, I'll see you guys soon.